You know what, let's not get political. Our final episode opened with a rather pointless recap, and for whatever reason, a slightly altered opening. Like, are y'all really trying to make Head feel like a legit threat at this point? Because just as soon as we got into the episode proper, his super final form was getting a pretty massive beatdown. Granted, it was a pretty epic and well-animated beatdown, with I think Nishiki Itoka and definitely Yu Yoshiyama animating it. However, the Ouroboros, who would definitely be stupid enough to eat his own tail, again tried to win over Kaiserin to his side, you know, after everything he had already done.
Yeah. それは違う.
You know, I'm starting to think that this Yahtzee is kind of bad at this whole evil thing. Also, if you want me to believe a character with this VA could be won over by the magic of friendship, you should at least bring in the elements of harmony. Anyway, Snickhead then tried to escape to Earth to try and find a new host. Thus, the former villains had to come in to make a portal back for the Precure. Though yeah, they also managed to protect Skyland, and I guess we were supposed to be happy for that, but well, more on that later. However, just as they were about to go through, they de-transformed due to a lack of power, I guess. Well, okay, this could be interesting. Maybe they could slowly transform back into Cures in a very epic Kuga-esque sequence, or maybe they'll just go into the final battle completely untransformed, and just with partial bits of their power, showing that the most important thing that makes them heroes is just the will to fight and... Or they could just transform normally. Y'all just really wanted to force in one last transformation sequence, didn't ya? Yeah, they really tried to play this up like an epic final stand by even playing an insert song called the Daybreak Song by Ami Ishii, Yuri Kitagawa, Machiko, and Chihaya Yoshitake. However, while it was pretty hype, it didn't exactly have the same effect as a certain other insert song by those same artists, plus Makoto from All Stars F, though we'll probably get to that later this week. But yeah, the fact that the final fight was broken up by this transformation sequence really hurt the flow and made the slash punch actually feel a little less impactful. No, if the show had been better, it might have earned that, but for now, let's not strain poor All Might over something like this. And also, unlike All Stars F, a speech about obsessing over power holds a lot less meaning here when it's only really been brought up in these last few episodes and wasn't a major theme of the show. Anyway, they purified Donkhead, leaving over half the episode for wrap-up and probably some sort of cameo from the next season's lead. Thus, we then checked in on every supposed major character, including the Andargu Empire, with Kaiserin literally taking up sewing after giving up on the whole evil thing. Good question. Y'all never really interacted because of one of the stupidest mandates ever. From there, we got the second most underused plot point with the Azuri Knights continuing to train to be toll jobbers. Well, to be fair, Miss Berry was at least getting in some good tsundere training. Bye! Thank you for contributing almost absolutely nothing in the latter half of the series. Seriously, why were you even in the opening? Bye! And as for the Cures themselves, with the main conflict over, the Skylanders decide to move out of Yo-Yo's house. Well, okay, now this they can't screw up. I mean, like many final episodes in this franchise, the final farewells have generally hit pretty hard, as while the characters would often end up reuniting, it would also take a lot of time and effort, or at least have the characters believe it's a farewell forever, and... This show has more sugarcoating than an entire Hershey's factory. Like, seriously, why even include that line? I mean, again, I'm not too surprised when the characters quickly reunite in these finales, but just giving us the thought that they might not see each other is an effective means of at least generating temporary feels. This line, and the fact that they repeat it several times afterwards, just removes any sense of drama. Like, why not at least say that they're unsure if they can make more portals because of something like Skeerhead messing up the dimensional system, or them just running off those blue stones that a friend of mine had to remind me of because I really forgot about them. Just something that doesn't make it seem like our protagonists are crying over their friends just moving a few blocks down the road. But that's the biggest problem with this episode. They either haven't put enough effort in, or just plain out refuse to let that sink in. Stuff like the former Ondagu generals reforming, or the Azure Knights being a thing, doesn't really hold any impact, as they haven't gotten any proper focus in spite of being at least part of the main conflict of the show, the war between the Empire and Skyland. Meanwhile, with the Cures, the writers almost seem to go out of their way to lessen the impact of their farewells with each other. Now, to be fair, I don't really care if the B team splits up for reasons that we'll get into in the overview.
アゲハさんみたいにかっこいい大人になりたい。
Kid, if you're even thinking of becoming a Gen Zer, then we're having fried chicken tonight. But really, any of the farewells involving Masho should have had more impact, and in the case of Sora, it almost did, as she was brought to tears over it. However, I just really can't feel anything, or at least what I should be feeling when I remember, oh yeah, they totally could just meet again the next day, which, oh look, they actually do it!
That was pointless.
Sorry, I'm just looking up the next episode preview for Maho Ako. Legit, that actually might end up being the best episode of the series so far. Anyway, the episode and the series ended with admittedly a nice ending sequence of Masho illustrating the series' major events, including one picture of Shala's sacrifice, which just adds to my theory that she was supposed to play a much bigger role in the show, but they dropped that in favor of Baldy. I also did really like this final illustration that was implied to have been drawn by each of the Cures, with Sora and Masho actually drawing each other based on their respective art styles and preferred company. Though, I think Ageha might have photoshopped her portion in. Yeah, much like a true college student, she took the lazy, last-minute route. Also, I can't help but feel like we're forgetting something. Oh right, Komugi never appeared in the episode proper, and only in the Baton Pass preview. Like, couldn't they have had Sora save Komugi still in dog form and inspire her to become a Precure? Or perhaps that wasn't part of some, like, original plans for this show. Maybe just keep that in mind for some future purposes, because for now, this finale fell harder than, well, even Sora last week. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some great things here, like the animation, that overall could have made this a strong episode in a vacuum, but as the final episode of a 50-episode show, I really can't just overlook some of the major flaws with the show overall. And even then, I would argue they really did mess up the final farewells just to make things a little less sad for their audience. Usually, we would send off a series with one shot, but I think we'll save that for another day and another video, and not this drag of a finale. Getting the good out of the way first, as there are legit some very bright spots here. The final battle with that head guy had some great looking sequences, and the insert song is something I'm gonna legit look up later. The final ending sequence involving all of the illustrations were legit great, and I have absolutely no complaints there. And the farewells, if you ignore the fact that they pretty much gave away the ending beforehand, were very touching, especially Sora and Masho, who no matter what will always be the best part of the show. But that's the thing, as the final episode, a lot of the show's poorly developed plot points and non-committal writing can't simply be ignored. I really think them toning down the sad farewells was just one of many examples of this show ironically pulling its punches because they want to appeal to an even younger audience, ignoring the fact that some of their more successful series pulled a proper balance between the lighter and darker tones. There's a whole lot more I want to say about this and other ways they could have handled these farewells, but I think we'll save that for the overview, because for now, even if this episode is technically strong and storyboarded well, if the series writing hasn't done its part, I just really can't get into it and saying farewell to many of these characters, be they the side, villain, or even mains, except for kind of these two. Yeah, again, I really did like Sora and Masho and think they deserved a much better show and send-off than this. Maybe that day will come soon, but overall, this might have been a nice looking and sounding finale in several areas, but as Zeus once said,
famous isn't the same as being a true hero.
Still, I do think we should try to close out this series with one major high point. Again, we'll have to skip this week's usual Wednesday review, but in exchange, y'all will be getting a very lengthy movie review, as there is a lot of good stuff that we want to bring up with this one. So do look forward to it. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and as usual, I think it's time for a little bit of a change up. Yeah, this feels about right.